Hey, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Welcome to another episode. I got a great guest, Mr. Scott Aaron at scottaaron.net. We're going to talk about how to do LinkedIn the right way and how to really do it at a high level. And we're going to talk about how you can do this no matter what level you're at today. You're just starting out, you're already a seasoned person doing it. You're going to get a lot out of this episode. For those of you who are looking to up your follow-up, those of you who are looking to have predictable revenue coming through, reach out to me at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com and let's have a conversation about what you're looking for. All right, let's go talk to Scott and welcome him in right now. Hey, Scott, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Doug. Grateful and honored to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, I'm really excited about our discussion because it's a topic of interest for a lot of people. They don't know how to do it. It's something they should be doing, and you're an expert in it. So let's talk about how to do, high-end professional prospecting on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's the oldest social media platform, but still the most underutilized one out there. And what I strive to do each day is to just bring more visibility, more attention to it. And those that step forward to want to work closer with me, show them the real impact it can have on their business.
So what is the impact it can have on their business? I mean, because that's what everybody's like, okay, well, great, LinkedIn prospecting, I want to do this. What's the impact?
Well, I would say if you know your desired outcome, I think that's first is having clarity. So if you're that CEO, you're that founder, that business owner that's looking to generate more leads, more sales, more business visibility, this is the platform for that. And there's a couple things that people need to know. Number one, LinkedIn has the highest organic reach across any social media platform out there today. So your visibility goes much further than the platforms like Meta or TikTok or YouTube. Well, number one, because you get to kind of curate and build your own organic network, but also LinkedIn does everything in its power, because obviously Microsoft is a technology company, to really showcase and highlight the content creators that are doing good things for the network that they're creating the content for. The second thing that people need to know is that 88% of the people on LinkedIn, so there's 1 billion plus people on the platform, which is still the smallest of any platform, even TikTok. 88% of people on LinkedIn are in a decision-making role, which means 12% are the service providers and 88% are the consumers. So if you want to talk about having the law of numbers in your favor as far as opportunity, that should put a stake in it right there for you. The third thing that people need to know is the average income that someone makes on the platform is typically almost 3 times higher than that of Meta and the other platforms. So typically on Meta, Instagram, Facebook, the average income of the user on the platforms is around $30,000 a year. LinkedIn has a range of anywhere between $75,000 to $100,000 a year or more, because these are established business owners. These are people that have been in business for years and years and years. And they're also looking to continue to up-level themselves. They're not happy with the status quo. They want to continue to push themselves, drive themselves forward. But I would say above all else, Doug, it's the best platform for collaboration. So I always go back to one of the foundational books that I read when I started on my personal development journey, God, about 14 years ago. And the book is called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. First, and for all the listeners, anyone watching or listening, you could literally throw away any mindset book that you have in your bookshelf right now and buy this book, and you'll be completely fine, because this was the first money mindset book ever written. It was written in 1910. So all of the principles, strategies, techniques that you continue to read in all these quote unquote money mindset guru books, they're all predicated off of Wallace D. Wattles and what he said nearly 125 years ago. What I would say is that the big point of what Wallace said, and there's a lot of nuggets in this book, but what I come down to from a foundational perspective, he said, instead of living in a world of competition and comparison, live in a world of creation and collaboration. So if you're that business owner that really prides themselves on collaboration and creation, whether that's creating content, creating relationships, creating referral partnerships, you're going to have the advantage over everybody else, not just on LinkedIn, but online in general, because LinkedIn, as I said in the very beginning of this episode, it's completely underutilized. You don't even have to pay for it. So people say, oh, Scott, should I have the premium? Should I have Navigator? Should I have Recruiter? Doug, I've only used the free version of LinkedIn. So I've never paid for LinkedIn. It still provides me with qualified leads every single day. It provides me clients every single week. And I teach others how to duplicate and do the same exact thing.
So let's talk about how do I, some of the steps of getting qualified leads, because, there's a difference between a lead and a qualified lead, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people think leads or marketing qualified leads are sales ready leads, right? The marketers think that a lot of times, and it's like, no. Your sales team is looking, or your salesperson is looking for a sales ready lead, or at least a sales qualified lead. So what are some of the steps that people should be thinking through? I know number one is like get clear on the outcome, because that's so important, not only on LinkedIn, but on life. I did want to plug LinkedIn and back up what you said, because we have pretty sizable followings on Meta and Instagram, right? I mean, upwards to 1 million, followers on those. But if we look at percentage of engagement, LinkedIn pulls higher than both of those platforms.
100%. Yes.
So I would absolutely back that up. So how does one start I think newbie here, right? I'm just coming into this like, okay, you caught my attention. What's my next step?
Well, let me first go back to something that you said when you mentioned qualified leads. So I just want to let the audience know, if you're ever approached by anyone on LinkedIn, or maybe you see an ad on Facebook or Meta or Instagram, and the advertiser or person reaching out to you says, hey, we can get you, 20 to 35 qualified leads per week on LinkedIn. I just want to tell you, it's BS. That is one of the biggest fallacies that's being promoted out there. And I just want to explain why. Number one, per the LinkedIn user guidelines, you're only allowed to send 100 connection requests a week. That's it. If you end up going over that, your account will be restricted. So that's the first thing that all the listeners need to know. Now, just because you can send 100 connection requests out, that doesn't mean 100 people are going to accept your connection request. The possibility of that happening is slim to none. The average rate of acceptance percentage-wise is anywhere between 20 to 30%. So let's cut it in the middle and just say for every 100 connection requests that you send, that's going to amount to about 25 new connections, which is about 100 per month, which is great. Now, if we break that down further, Doug, every new connection you have, that's not a qualified lead yet. That is a new connection. So there's a big thing that needs to be deciphered and I think broken down for people. In my eyes, when someone becomes a qualified lead is when I message the person after becoming a connection and they respond back, yes, I would like to talk to you offline. I book a time with them, send them a calendar invitation. Now that's a qualified lead because that person has agreed to engage with me in a conversation on LinkedIn Messenger and has agreed to take it offline. And now they're on my calendar, in my listserv, whatever the case may be. Now, to break it down further, for every 5 messages that you send to a new connection, you can expect 1 response back. So if you have 25 people to message and you message all 25, you're probably going to end up with 3 to 5 qualified appointments booked based on these numbers. That is tried and true. Now, that's not to say people can't get more. Some people may have less. It really depends on the niche that you're in, the ideal client avatar that you're connecting with, and obviously the messaging strategy. You don't want to send one of those 18-paragraph long drunkalog verbal vomit messages. That's just going to push people away. Sure. So I just wanted to clarify that. Now, if someone was to get started, and here's the key, what a lot of people do not realize is that LinkedIn is a giant search engine. Every facet to LinkedIn is SEO optimized, from your profile to your content to your searching to any form of any content that you put out or any commentary that you make on within yours or someone else's. But it all begins with your profile. And this is the beauty of LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn profile is just like the homepage to a website. That's where people go to find out who you are, what you do, who you serve, and what do you offer. If those questions can't be answered on your profile, it's not filled out the right way. If someone visits your profile and by reading through your profile, they have no clue what you do, no clue who you serve, and have no idea what your offerings are, you got to start right there. And that's most people. Now, here's the key. So I always like to reverse engineer things. And by reverse engineering, I always like to put myself in the shoes of the ideal client avatar, right? Because I want to really embed myself in that person and their activity. And in the example I'm giving is if I was my own ideal client avatar, right? And I was using the search engine and I was looking to find me, what keywords would I put into the search engine that if they were put in there and I hit search, my profile would populate? So this is a key, because if your profile does not have the right SEO keywords fluttered all throughout it, meaning in your headline, in your about or summary section, in your experience section, headline and descriptions of the experiences, the more times that you mention a specific keyword or key phrase, just like if you were hungry for sushi right now and you got out your phone, you brought up your browser and you typed in sushi near me, that sushi restaurant closest to you that has the best SEO optimized website, they're going to get the first eyeballs. I'll give you another example. My wife and I just had some work done on our house. We were looking to get our furnace just repaired, just an upgrade, whatever it was. So Nancy went on there and she typed in furnace repairs, and someone right in our local area popped up, called them, they came out, and they came to the house and they said, "How did you hear about me?" And she said, "Google." And she's like, "Oh," he's like, good to know that that's working." So that same core principle needs to be applied to your LinkedIn profile. So if anyone visits my LinkedIn profile, you'll see fluttered all throughout it: sales, marketing, branding, lead generation, client acquisition, LinkedIn strategy, LinkedIn marketing. All of those things are mentioned all throughout my LinkedIn profile. So guess what? If the right person, my client avatar being founders, CEOs, business owners, service professionals, coaches, consultants, if any of my client avatars are searching for those specific things, guess whose profile is going to populate on the first search page result? Mine. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be turned to anything more than just eyeballs. But when they click on my profile and they start reading through it, if I filled out all the sections properly and really marketed to them. So everything that is listed on my LinkedIn profile has my ideal client in mind, from my background banner, from my headline section to the description and the skills that I have. I have close to 530 written recommendations on my LinkedIn profile, and I highlight that because I want people to visually see the results that I've gotten for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. So, Doug, the big thing that really helps people go from just using LinkedIn to monetizing LinkedIn is being a person of value. So is the content that you're producing really positioning you as the subject matter expert? B, are you giving people a track to go on? So are you giving them something to chew on? You can't be afraid to give too much. You have to give in order to get. But the third and final thing is the social proof there. Are you an expert? So when someone says, "Well, Scott, what makes someone an expert?" So there's a couple things that I tell people that you should have that will make you an expert more than maybe someone else in the industry or profession that you're in. A, having that optimized LinkedIn profile, right? Having all those sections filled out, because it's actually one of the most searchable things on external search engines. So if someone was to go on Google or Yahoo and type in Scott Aaron, comma LinkedIn, my profile will be one of the first things to pop up even before my website. That's the crazy thing. So again, Microsoft, they're doing everything they can to actually connect with and partner with some of these external search engines. The second thing is really showing the social proof of your success, client recommendations, right? Client testimonials, LinkedIn recommendations. And the third, the content that you produce should vary. So if anyone sees my content strategy, it's very diverse. It's long form video, short form video, market research polls, image text posts, slide document carousel posts, my LinkedIn newsletter, which is getting close to 9,000 subscribers. So all of those things amount to someone saying, well, how can I deny this person is not an expert? They got a podcast with over 1 million downloads, right? They have all these LinkedIn books. They have all these recommendations. So really double, triple, and quadruple down on your expertise to really position yourself that way.
So if I understand the process, which all makes full sense. Number one, clear outcome. You got to know what the heck you want. That's the bottom one. Second, understand who the ideal buyer is, the ideal right fit. Third, you got to design your profile with SEO laden keywords or key phrases and positioning yourself as an expert with the content, the social proof, and all the subject matter that goes into that content.
Correct.
Four, we got to start a reach out. We're going to expect 100 to 25 to 5 ratio, basically. So
yes,
that means, folks, for every 100 you reach out, if you do this right, you're going to have 5 decent offline conversations that you can have.
But you compound that over a month, that's 20 qualified conversations. Over a year, that's 250. So
right. So if you have 250 that are going out over the year, and let's say you absolutely are not really even good at closing, let's just say, right? Or you can't
10% closing ratio.
If you get 10%, there's 25 clients, multiply it times what your average lifetime value of your client is, and there's your numbers, guys.
Yep. If your lifetime value of your client is $10,000, you've made $250,000 just off of those conversations.
Yep. Makes total sense. And if you're not, if you're only getting a 10% conversion, you need to talk to
We have a
Scott.
separate issue to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, I will say this. So, you hit the nail on the head with everything that you just repeated. But I would say once you kind of have all those things kind of locked down, this is the brilliance of LinkedIn. The same way that you want someone else to use the search engine to find you, you can actually kind of lead in that process, because you can use the search engine yourself to find your ideal client prospect, right? So I could easily go on there and just type in, business coach, comma, consultant, right? And then I can start sending out connection requests to those people that I know once they receive that connection request from me,
Right.
and they check out my profile, they're like, oh man, because right on my banner, on my background banner on my LinkedIn profile, it says the sales and marketing system for LinkedIn for coaches and consultants. So right there, if the right person populates onto my profile and they see that I've created a sales and marketing process for LinkedIn for coaches and consultants, CEOs, founders, whatever, what have you, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm definitely accepting this connection request. I want to see what this guy has to say. Right. So that's why, yes, you're gonna have people reaching out to you, but you also have to do the dance yourself, and you have to lead to really build that ideal network.
Right. And you're going to reverse engineer exactly what you're doing on your own profile, right? So you're going to look for the people that will actually be jumping to your profile, but we're actively reaching out to them.
Yep.
Right. So it's this is matchmaking, really, when it comes down to it, right? It's like the ideal matchmaking.
And you're allowed 30,000 connections. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like, that's huge. Like, you're allowed 30,000 first connections on LinkedIn. I mean, that's 6 times bigger than Facebook. Facebook, you can only have 5,000 friends and then you're basically cut off. LinkedIn is 6 times more. And these are direct connections. These are people that you can communicate with on many different facets through some of the push notifications. These are going to be your newsletter subscribers. There are so many advantageous ways to use LinkedIn. If people truly just dedicated 30 minutes a day, Monday through Friday for the next year, and really follow these organic strategies, their business will absolutely change by the end of the next 12 months.
Makes total sense. I mean, the master prospector always outsells the master closer, right?
Yep.
So it's so let's talk messaging for a second, Scott. So we got the foundation laid out. A lot of people, because they don't know their ideal right fit buyer or the ideal right fit decision makers and the influence and stakeholders, their messaging is off. I get, like you said, those messages, hey, we'll get you 20 to 35 qualified. And I'm like, how? And they skirt around it, right? And so but a lot of times it's the messaging that when people are reaching out, and this doesn't matter whether it's email, cold call, LinkedIn, whatever, it's the same issue across the board.
Yep.
So what type of messaging should they be sending out? Because too many people are too wordy or verbose in their messaging, I think, when it comes to these type of things. Or a typical bad message. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm great. My products are great. My company's great. Let me tell you why I'm so great, and you should be, getting in touch with me, right? Those type of messages versus what's in it for them. How are they buying on business return on investment, personal return on investment, and what's meaningful to them. So how do you start the messaging, and what do you recommend?
So I'll first start with what I don't recommend. Okay. So going back to something that I stated earlier, do not message people the way that you don't want to be messaged. So if you're receiving those 18 paragraph long drunkalog verbal vomit messages and you're turned off by that, chances are you don't want to send something like that yourself. So message people the way that you would want to be messaged. So again, going back to something that I stated earlier, really put yourself in the shoes of the person that you want to connect with. Is what you're about to send going to bring them closer to you or push them further away? So my wife and I call it the smell test. If your message stinks, don't send it.
Mhm.
So plain and simple. So I take a lot of care and attention to the psychology of buying. So a lot of sales, for those that don't know this, a lot of it is emotionally driven. So it's an emotional connection between seller and buyer, and there's a lot of know, like, and trust that needs to be formed because people don't buy things and work with people that they don't know, like, or trust. And from the onset, you're not sending a video message, you're not sending an audio message, you're sending a very clear, short, sweet, and simple written message. Why? Well, if someone watches a video, they watch it and then they move on. If someone listens to an audio message, they listen to it, they move on. But when you write a message, they have to read it, and there's a psychology behind it. The last thing that you want someone to see is a question mark. Why? Questions prompt responses. So if you finish with a statement, it's going to lead to nowhere, even if it's done in a video message or an audio message. But when you finish with a question, it's going to prompt an answer. So you have to ask to get. You have to ask in order to get. Now, if I was to break down the message, do not write your messages overly stuffy or professional like some of the people that are using the automated software, which violates the user agreement. So, dear Doug, comma, space, how's business treating you in 2025? So, and then it goes on and on and on. You write everything in like 3 or 4 lines. There no page breaks, no paragraph breaks. Humanize your message. So I would say something like, hey, Doug, thanks so much for accepting my connection request. Relaxed, warm, open, connectable. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bridge or a relatable connection point between myself and Doug. We're both CEOs of our companies, right? So I would say, I noticed that you were the CEO of your company, as am I. Would love to hear how things are going with you and your business, share more about me and mine, and how we could support each other here on LinkedIn. So what I've done is I've created a relatable path for Doug to go down, meaning he's going to read the message and he's going to be like, oh, that makes sense why Scott is reaching out. I'm a CEO. He's a CEO. There already is some very organic synergy without ever speaking on the phone. But one of the most important things that I did, and this also comes back to the psychology of sales, is I included one of the most impactful words that evokes emotion in sales. And that word is support. So there's actually been studies done where they've actually hooked people's brains, those little things on their brain that the brain waves and how people respond emotionally to certain words. And they had people read words and to see and track brain activity of what was actually going on. And they found that the word support actually causes the largest release of oxytocin that the brain can just by looking at a word. So for those that don't know what oxytocin is, that's one of our feel-good brain chemicals, just like serotonin or dopamine or endorphins when you get the runner's high. So now the person is feeling good as they're reading this message. The final thing that you're going to do, I already kind of preluded this by saying you have to ASK to GET. You finish with a call to action. One of the easiest, I know this is very elementary, but one of the easiest ways to close more sales is to ask for more sales.
Yep.
So I would just finish with, do you have any time this week or next week for a call or a Zoom? That's it. Last thing he's going to see is that question mark. And here's what's going to happen. Something or nothing. And both are fine with me. Either Doug's going to say, you know what? Yes, let's talk. Would love to talk about you and your business, blah, blah, blah. Or no, thanks, too busy, or no response. That is business. People are either going to step forward and want to take the conversation offline, or they're not. But you just move on to the next person, then the next person, and the next person. This is a numbers game. So this is the farmer mentality, not the hunter mentality. Those that plant the most seeds are those that are going to reap the greatest harvest.
Makes sense. So in to qualify the sale that we're trying to get, we're trying to get an appointment. That's the first sale, right? So folks, there's more than one sale in a closed sale. So, even when people are cold calling, same mistake, Scott. They're trying to actually close the deal. And it's like, no, you want an appointment. That's your next step sale, right? So what's your next step sale? So what I'm hearing is go to the next step sale, get them on the call, and then from there you're diving deeper into the process and figuring out the next step.
I mean, Doug,
there.
yeah, I mean, Doug, you know this. The sales cycle is longer than it's ever been, just because there's so many people just like selling and marketing out there. So yeah, I mean, the sales cycle, if it's the right person, it may be an instantaneous sale when you have that first call. It may be on a follow-up. It may be on a second or third follow-up, whatever the case may be. But the fact of the matter is that you have to treat this like dating. And most people, if you're listening to this and you've ever courted your wife, your husband, your partner, you didn't try to sleep with them on the first date. Maybe you did, but that's not my approach. You have to treat this like dating. So if you ever remember any first date that you went on, more significantly with the person that you're with right now, remember that first date, all the questions that you asked, right? All the points of similarity that you looked for, right? The common ground. You weren't just looking to shove as many drinks down their throat as possible and then invite them back to your place. That's going to push people away. So you want to use that same concept when you're looking to grow a business and you're looking to close more sales. You want to develop as many meaningful relationships as possible because people remember that. Even if the person that you're prospecting ends up not being the best fit, maybe they don't have the money, maybe they're not ready, but they will remember the relationship that you built with them. Because when they're out there in the networking world and the social media world and they're connecting and they end up making a connection with someone that has a similar pain point to them but are more ready, guess who they're then going to refer?
Right.
You. And that's the thing. You want to build that referral network of power partners and business allies so your name comes out of more people's mouths.
What I love about this, Scott, is it's exactly what we teach, right? In our process, it's like, all right, if you think about it like dating, and I use a lot of dating analogies because they're very analogous, like, take follow-up, for example, right? It's one of those things that people, they don't readily do most of the time. But if you go back to dating and you have a really good first date, I mean, we do all kinds of neat things for that person to be more inspired to go out with us the next time. We send them cards and letters and call them and text them and, in ways that they're accepting that process. So what I'm hearing is, all right, we get them to the first date. We have a good first date. We want to have a second date, right? That's the key. Let's get them to the next step and build a relationship over the process, because if they are not going to buy, they remember us, and our next ask is going to be to expand our network. So it's going to be for a referral from the process. And so this is a great process. Where do people, where do people like, what are like the top couple of things that people do that are common that they're just messing it up, if you will?
Yeah, so I would say number one, spamming people, and I call it the spray and pray methodology,
Yeah.
where you're just clicking connect with any warm body that's on LinkedIn and kind of hoping and praying the right people fall through the pipeline. And it doesn't work that way. The more clear you are with your strategy, the more clear you're going to have the desired outcome that you're looking for. I would say second is doing that really spammy and salesy message strategy. But I would say a step above that, what you're seeing now, Doug, is people are getting a little bit more aggressive with their sales strategy. So when they go to connect with people, they're actually not even waiting to be connected to the person to pitch them. They're
Yeah.
actually adding a sales pitch note with the connection request. So you'll get a connection request and they'll say this person has added a note and they'll say, hey, looking for another $20,000 in revenue in the next 3 hours, I can show you how. So
Yeah.
they're not even waiting for the connection request. So I would say that's one of the other big things. I would say fourth is people are selling and pitching in their content. So, you're not giving value, you're not giving tangible tips and takeaways, you're not giving informational things going on in the industry or profession that you're a part of. You're just literally going in for the kill, buy this, buy that, sign up for this, sign up for that. No one's going to do that. They need to be warmed up. You need to build the know, like, and trust. And I would say fifth and final is that people are just abusing the user agreement. Now, ways that they're abusing the user agreement, the two biggest ways. Number one, they're using some sort of automated marketing software that connects and messages for them, which that's no fault to them. They may be missold by that marketing company that's saying, oh, we're compliant with the LinkedIn processes and user agreement. Well, that's a lie, because in the user agreement, under the do not section, it says you will not use any software that connects and messages for you. So going back to something I said earlier in the episode, if you can't take 15 to 30 minutes a day to connect with the right people, send a few messages, post some content, engage with other people, you shouldn't be on the platform. And the other thing is, do not have anyone log into your account acting as you on your behalf. I see this happen all the time. They track IP addresses, right? So yeah, you may say that, oh, I have an IP address blocker. LinkedIn is 18 steps ahead. For people that don't know this, LinkedIn has 12 different algorithms going at one time. So they're picking up on everything that people are throwing down. So if you think you're going to skirt around it by having someone that has some sort of IP address blocker where they're logging in, they're connecting and messaging because, quote unquote, you're too busy to actually do the work, that's the adult version of just saying the dog ate my homework. And my thing is, Doug, people make time for what's most important to them. And what's important to me is connecting with people, building genuine, authentic connections and relationships, and seeing where that business can go. So if you really stay away from all those do nots and you stay in that little nice pocket of the things that you should be doing, you'll have a great experience on LinkedIn and you'll never want to leave the platform.
Makes total sense. It's really common sense for building a relationship, really, when it comes down to it, right? It's like
Yep.
the must-dos and the do-nots. Don't go for the kiss before you open the door
Yep.
in the restaurant, just simple stuff.
Yep.
By the way, all of you who are listening to this, please, for the love of whatever deity, stop sending me SEO and requests that, I'm the cheapest SEO company on the planet and I can get you ranked at number one. It's, on my LinkedIn.
And Doug, just really quickly, as far as SEO, Because of AI. So Andy Crestodina, who's a good friend of mine, he's on LinkedIn, great guy. He's been on the Inc. 5000 list like 4 times, like incredible. All about SEO, all about AI. What people need to understand is that SEO, even though it's important on LinkedIn, because of AI, there are significant changes to SEO rankings, and there's a different way that it needs to be utilized now. And to your point, a lot of these companies that are telling you all this, it's also becoming more competitive. And I don't want to say devalued, but just different. And it's easier for people like you and myself to actually do it on our own, where we don't have to pay someone to do it because it's really more foundational now. And
Mm,
that's why it's very platform centric of how it needs to be done.
makes total sense. Hey, Scott, how do people get a hold of you, learn more about what you do? What would be the best methodology or methodologies?
Yeah, I would say too, obviously LinkedIn would be a great place to start. You can find me on there. I post 6 days a week. I do 2 free LinkedIn live trainings every single week, Mondays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. Or you can just visit my website, scottaaron.net. It's got everything you need on there, all the ways that I work with people, book, podcast, all that stuff.
Awesome. Scott, really appreciate you being here, bringing the A game. I know there's some people like smiling, like, oh my God, I can do this, I can do this. And I know there's some people that are weeping in their hands right now, going, no, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah, bottom line, folks, do this, right? Because just as you said, you know, 20 minutes a day, let's just say it's 20 minutes a day on average, and you can put out certain amount of contacts. It makes total sense because it is a consistent outbound reach and it's going to yield something. And by the end of the year, folks, you can determine where it reaches, right? Just like we teach you every single month, you look at this, you review it, make it a little better, review it, make it a little better, review it, make it a little better. And in time, you're gonna see the pop happen, right? There's gonna be some months because everything is in a wave. And there'll be some months where you'll be like, oh my God, I just got 12, great connections, 12 great appointments, and I closed, 4 sales out of that process. But if you don't start the front end like Scott is wisely been telling you to do, then you're never going to get the back end that you're looking for. And if you need some help, reach out to him, scottaaron.net. And Scott, thanks again for being here, sir. I really appreciate you being here on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, how many notes do you have? I've got 2 full pages. Listen, let me give you the template here. Clear outcome, right? Number 1. Number 2, understand your ideal right fit buyer. It's critical. We teach that as well, right? You've heard me say this over and over. Number 3, design your profile with SEO, latent keywords, key phrases, and get the attraction marketing going in the content that you're doing. In other words, you're going to send out information for content that attracts that ideal right fit buyer. Number 4, reach out. Remember what he said, ratio, 100 reach outs, get you 25 connections, get you 5 conversations. Now, if you're attracting the ideal right fit buyer, you're going to have a nice discovery conversation. That discovery conversation is to lead to the second step. So you want to make sure you know what that second step is. And it's not necessarily a one-time close for most people because this is a lead that's going to need a little bit of nurturing. Now, depending on how great you do your front end on the marketing and everything like that, it'll improve your odds of the close being quicker than longer. So anyways, and make sure on that offline conversation, you are as professional as you are congruent online. That is another key. All right, so you got those. Keep it to 3 to 4 lines. You've got an opening, you've got a bridge, you've got a call to action. What's the call to action? An appointment. You're not trying to necessarily close. Well, let's say don't close if you can on that first, right? You're trying to get to the appointment. That is the purpose. The purpose of this is to get you more conversations going. And if you have it dialed in, those conversations will at least be qualified on a marketing level, and then you can nurture your way up. And if you want, you can also keep sharing content and nurture them up to the sales ready component of it, and then have the discovery call. Either way will work. All right. Bottom line is do this, right? Remember, the master prospector always outsells the master closer. Always, 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 always. Now, speaking of that, the master prospector also has to follow up. And if you don't have a way to follow up, or it's cumbersome for you, we've developed a technology to help you do that. Also, we are very good at helping you get your next generation of revenue coming through. In other words, predictable, reliable revenue. If you're in that position where you have up and down cycles, you're in a position where you're like, it's just not, my competitors are just taking more business than I want. I'm a little frustrated in my heart of hearts. I know I could be doing better. Reach out to us on either issue. Just reach out to me directly at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com and say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation. We'll converse. Let's see what we can do to help you get there. Until next time, this is Doug C. Brown saying, go out and sell something, but play win-win-win. Have somebody win, you win, someone else wins in the process. Do not discount when you do not have to. Remember discounting. If you discount something, you've got to make up multiple sales to make up for that discount. It's no different than you're just cutting your margins. So hold your margins with value. Have your value proposition that's very high on the business return on investment and the personal return on investment that they're seeking. If you don't know what that is, ideally you're missing your ideal right fit buyer profile, and we can help you with that as well. To your success.